apothecaries, shamans, surgeons, combat medics, healers of all types. Maybe they gather together, or the player characters are traveling along and they see lines, rows of dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people heading to a town, a city state, a monument of sorts, or a location in the middle of nowhere. All of the people they see, family, friends, loved ones, surrounding those who need help, who need to be healed. Maybe they pass people, your adventurers pass individuals with birth defects, injuries, disease, and they're making a pilgrimage to a place or location or just beseech the gods or powerful entities to alleviate them of the hardships of the body. So today, you got to know what today is. Today, we're going to talk about the day of healing and maybe some dark twists on that concept. So stick with us. If you suffer from world builder's disease, this is a place you want to be. All right, so today we are talking about, yes, the day of healing. And of course, in our fantasy role playing game and our tabletop experiences, uh, we love to go down some dark, deep pathways, right? We love to embrace the grim dark, the horrors of things, but maybe, just maybe, in your tabletop role playing experience, you need a day of healing. Um, if for no other reason than to have a holiday, a festival, a celestial event, um, a region, a reason for people to cherish a day. Now, of course, on this day of healing, we'll definitely have um, an impetus, a motivation for the population to gather together or to beseech the gods or to travel to a known region that maybe, just maybe, might offer some reprieve for the people who have suffered for some type of harm or something like that. But on the day of healing, there's actually, listen, darkness and twisted natures and being able to pull out of this the drama and conflict that we want, it's still there. And so give me the opportunity to do this. So on its surface, let's pretend, let's say that on this day of healing, it is a day when the greatest minds come together to teach and give the arts of healing to others. It may also be a time in classic D20 that individuals who normally haven't risen up to the level of what we would consider a first level cleric or healer or druid or something are embraced. They're included. These are the students and the chosen ones, individuals who normally wouldn't pick this kind of thing, are gathered together and become the individuals who will later on become the adventurers that we know of in our games today. I mean, though the clerics and the druids and the healers of your fantasy world have to come from somewhere. So these individuals, hey Vince, these individuals may they could be marked, they could be chosen. There may be a faction that's going around looking for the greatest healers of all, some with special gifts that are normally on the day of healing not known until this day came about, or hey, hey Vince, and other things. But we can get into some of the dark turns on this as well, because in fantasy, healing is a miracle that in our present day is considered to be extremely powerful and viable. An individual who can, just by sheer will or the grace of the gods or something, heal someone of their wounds is pretty amazing. I understand that in fantasy gaming, it's more like, just pick up a healer. We'll go to a vending machine or something like that and pick up a healer on the corner and just keep on going, or find an alchemist or an apothecary to give us some healing potions and whatnot. But it's a very amazing thing, especially to a common population. And on this day, it could very well disrupt plenty of uh, social norms. For example, people leaving their work. In a fantasy realm, if people start leaving their work to go on a pilgrimage, I see. I saw you what you hit there. For our co-hosts here, if people go on pilgrimages, they're stopping doing what they should be doing to go do something else. So conflicts could be uh, uh, governments and authorities are trying to stop people, and with a population big enough, they may not have enough soldiers or guards or whatever to force people back to their homes or back to the harvests and back into the mines that they should be working, because the people have gathered together. Maybe they've gathered some coinage or whatever to take their loved ones to a place to be healed. This may also be with the countryside in constant conflict. Warriors and soldiers and things like that, may their families and friends may want them to be healed. There may also be a desire to there may be disease or curses or beasts in the woods that have been harming people for a long time, and to heal those injuries, fantasy injuries like lycanthropy, mutations, infestations, and things of that nature may need to be healed as well for someone to recover before the full moon comes and they transform into some kind of beast, or 3 days hence the rot grubs that crawled into their arm reach their heart and kill them, or the infestation of bugs, explodes out of their skin. They need to be healed. And so the player characters going on a mission to protect, you know, people who cannot protect themselves may be quite important. And also, on the day of healing, there's no guarantee that these individuals could be healed. They could be chosen by the gods. The gods may say, "Sure, we've got healing as long as you devote yourselves to us." Going more down from a faithful clerical type to more of a warlock. Like, you want something from us, fine. Then you owe us a thing. It's a we have to have a trade. And also, the enemies of the player characters may then kidnap, cajole, threaten, whatever, these healers to be a part of them. If the players have animosity with gnolls or lizard folk or hill giants or something, and they may want healers for themselves and deny them from the population as well. But let's get into what our co-hosts have to say, and then we'll get into the the darkness of using healing to torture people. So Vince says, in Astrocitas, I made a ship core that is called Attracts Pilgrims, okay, which has healing abilities and gives you additional crew because it is considered holy by some religions. Yeah. A location could very well heal people. The classic Fountain of Youth, or the Golden River that doesn't happen to have a hill giant at the end of it, or stone giant relieving their bladder. Maybe that little golden fluid river may have healing properties unto itself, or like I said, a monument, or again, if this being the day of healing, a normally uninhabitable location could on this day be one of healing and be very dangerous to navigate to get to. And that's why we need our adventurers to get down into a deep crevice or valley or climb up to a high elevation or a pinnacle or scale a sheer cliff or, you know, walk up a pathway of stone steps, 1,000 times 1,000 steps carved into the side of a mountain, and carrying the injured up that side of that mountain may be very dangerous, and there may also be enemies and such. Vincent, so the ship itself is the goal for a pilgrimage, yep, to get there. Generally, in Numenera, it is much more valuable to be a healer because there is no core class about healing. Healing abilities are actually relatively rare. Um, and it always makes me wonder in current fifth edition and D20 systems, the propensity for characters to have healing, is that a reflection of the world, or is that just something player characters have? Right, like because there can be a difference. The idea that halflings can have an 18 strength, is that is that a normative uh, attribute of the world, or is that just something the player characters have access to because they are the special snowflakes, but the rest of the world doesn't reflect that? You'd have to make a decision on your own about that. Character choices give them ability to have healing, but imagine the world does not have that, and the player characters are surrounded by people begging, like they're sycophants. There are people offering their services and they're being threatened simply on this day of healing. The players are then besieged by other people who are like, "You're healers, you're great healers, please help us." And especially if the players are on the fence, like they're kind of half murder hobos, half trying to do good, and they could be overwhelmed by the need to help people. The equivalent of a fantasy or arcane lepers colony may need the player characters' help, but then there are others in power or such are going, "No, you need to work for us," and you walking around just helping general people. Who do you think you are, anyhow? Yeah. In D&D, it often feels like getting healing is more of an everyday service, which I personally, I despise that. It feels immersion breaking, right? Like, if, for example, clerics classically are given granted the ability to offer miracles and blessings, and in my mind, I'm going like, the gods wouldn't just not generally just heal anybody, let you do it to anybody. They might want something back in service for that, right? Now, it may not mean that you need to worship these gods or godlings, but they might be thinking like, "Hey, we're showing you miracles. You give us some respect back off of that." You know what I mean? Um, yeah, Vince says, "Why would anyone have scars or latent disabilities or sicknesses when there is a person that could just say a word and it is gone?" I agree with you. And I think that in and of itself could be the dial in a setting. Like, imagine a community that doesn't have the sick, doesn't have the injured, and could this make people have like less fears? Child falls off a cliff and the parents aren't worried about it as they see their broken child at the bottom of the cliff, and they send someone down there and heal the kid, and the kid's like, "Yay!" and gets back up again. And the people have like, it's like maybe they should be scared of things. um, Although healing doesn't necessarily prevent death, and some of that could be modulated a little bit, right? Like where, for example, like player characters always complain, like, "Well, we need a healer in the group." Who's to say a community doesn't travel or do a thing without at least one healer traveling with every group or organization, or nobles or something? I've always wondered why the rich and noble and the powerful and influential don't surround themselves with um, arcane abilities and people who have access to those abilities. A noble who has an oracle on one side to predict if they're going to die that day, and a healer on the other side, and a wizard to protect them with barrier and warding spells, and never travel anywhere unless they have one. Um, your powerful banditry and soldiers on as the player characters go around and try to murder kill a bunch of their adversaries. Why wouldn't they have multiple levels of recovery and healing so that they, you know, um, maybe they might run away, but they'll live to fight another day, kind of thing. Also, on a day of healing, maybe healing's available to everyone equally. Get got a little troll like vampiric ish Hydra multi-headed regrowing backish kind of thing on this day, which would make many enemies pretty horrible as well. Vince says in a book I've read some time ago, there was a special day in the year where a powerful wizard would heal everyone coming to a specific ritual. There was a big economy connected to it. The interesting thing was that circles would trap magic. So there were special vendors that would hammer your coins into squares, and you could not wear anything circle shaped, or it could have catastrophic consequences. That is very bizarre, and I love it. I love these. I'm not sure of a good way to say this, but to describe this. So I'm just going to use. I love like the armchair kind of folklorish rules that aren't necessarily mechanical dice rules, but they're rules within the world. Like you can't wear circles, or you must be blindfolded, or you cannot consume food from sunup to sundown, or you must always walk in a circle, or your feet cannot touch the earth itself, and you must be carried from one location to another for if your feet were to touch the ground or whatever, right? You have to wear a blue scarf always over your head, or a shawl, or whatever. Little things like that. I love those kind of things because um, those are little details that players you can describe to the players in the world, and they can pick up on the reasons behind that. So if they have to wear a blue shawl over their head, and during the adventure they meet some kind of enemies or adversaries they're not sure, one of the players is like, I'm going to pull out that blue shawl and put it over my head and see what they say, and all of a sudden maybe they're honored, and they're able to have a social interaction rather than instantly go to rolling initiative. Vince says, that's why I like Dungeon World. It's heavily implied that the guy playing a cleric is not just any cleric, but he is the cleric. Yeah, aka the only cleric. So there is none like him in the world. For those who don't know, and I think this is what you're referring to here, Vince, that in Dungeon World they have, and this is definitely something you can steal. I love games where they have a part of the game that you can steal. And if I'm not mistaken, in Dungeon World, they have something called one unique thing. And in that world, every player character, and they hint that every city and every piece of landscape should have one unique thing, something that person has, that player character has, or that NPC has, that nobody else in no location in the entire world has. And I think it's a great thing to steal. So if you have 5 cities on the coastline, well, what's the one unique thing about the third city that the other 2 cities north of it and south of it do not have, right? If on this day of healing, what is it about this day that makes it unique from any other day? And is it the fact that getting in a physical altercation is kind of useless, because if you start slicing each other open, your wounds will just heal? Is that the thing? Oh, 13th age. From what Google says, the one unique thing is from 13th age. Thank you very much for correcting me there. Yeah, I mix up Apocalypse World, Dungeon World, 13th age. I mix these damn games up all the time. It's the one unique thing. Dungeon World has is it fronts or icons? Damn it. It's not in front of me. Vince says, but Dungeon World heavily implies that too. One of them has icons, the other one has fronts, but essentially they are powerful factions in your world, and they have very generalized names. Of course, in your setting, you can name them, that influence the world and what's going on. And on the day of healing, um, fronts are in Dungeon World, so then it's icons in 13th Age. And on the day of healing, there may be powerful entities that are for this or against it. Um, a Something going on here in the States is the idea of we do not have the same kind of healthcare that we have. I know I'm getting a little political, but we don't have the same kind of healthcare that the hat of the United States, Canada has. And so there's a conflict of how do you handle that? And some make the argument that a healthy nation is one that is a powerful nation. Uh, I tend to fall in the idea of like, healthy, happy employees make better employees. And if they're worried about their sick children or someone's having the sniffles over your food when they're serving it to you in a restaurant, maybe we've got a little issue. And so, but on the other hand, those in authority may say, hey, listen, if we start offering this, what's to stop people from neighboring nations and counties? And again, stopping work and keeping the economy and the processes of a nation going. If everybody stops to take their loved ones to this place to be healed, and they can also be victims on the road. I can imagine ghouls and vampires taking advantage of the pilgrimage to a place because they're easy pickings, right? These people are victims and such, and could very easily go there. Or what if the day of healing is something that can happen that's permanent? Meaning, like, hey, if you go to this place, not only will you be healed, you will be forever healed. You won't break your arm, temporary pain because it'll heal, right? Or something of that nature, right? Maybe on this day of healing, the chosen few are picked, and those chosen few uh, can become themselves. They break the line of noble hierarchies, like the bloodlines and military ranking has ranks in it. But what if healers are outside of that? And there's an old TV show called The 4400. Don't worry about the show. It was a good show, but the point of it was 4,400 human beings get abducted by aliens. At least that's what the first season pretended. And all 4,400 of those people that were abducted over 50 years or 70 years are returned on a single day. And each one of those human beings is given some kind of psychic ability, one single psychic ability. And one of those characters is a healer. He can heal people. And he becomes a cult leader because people come to him to be healed. That is a seems to me like a very easy thing to fall into. Vince says, but just imagine a campaign world, how a campaign world would look like if the PCs are really the only ones uh, with their specific capabilities or skill set, basically the only heroes in the world. Absolutely, or at least if to add a little bit or modify what you're saying here, Vince, maybe they're the only ones who have that special combination. So an example would be a ranger. A player character could be a ranger, but maybe somewhere in the world there is someone who is just very good at archery. They don't have survival skills. They're not very strong. They're not a warrior, but they have very good. Like the players have this puzzle piece of these special abilities. I think that'd be awesome, because a it make them feel like they're badasses, right? But the negative part of that is that they're not just a warrior. They may be the greatest swordsman ever known. And others are coming to challenge them in the middle of them trying to like go to the tavern and get something to drink, or just go to the blacksmith to shop for something, as people were like, oh, you're the greatest swordsman, you know? Yeah, I hear you. Oh, you're all right there. Member of the squad. Yeah. Yeah, in a lot of settings, the PCs are nothing special, but how popular would a cleric be if he is literally the only person in the world that has healing magic? And imagine the stories told about them, the tales, the we already put people on pedestals that are very normal human beings. Imagine the the stories that are told, that are spread throughout the land, about the person who can heal with just a touch of their hands, the one person chosen by the gods to heal. Yeah, the only heroes with divine magic. Yep. I get it. Shai says, if the PCs are the only heroes in the world, wouldn't they have to be avatars of some kind of gods or something like that? Not necessarily. I mean, they could be. Maybe they just happen to be the special ones, right? The strongest ones, the fastest ones, the most brilliant, the one who has written down the arcane knowledge where the others haven't. I think that's a great idea. But here, let's get into some. We got to twist this into some deep, dark stuff, right? So imagine, if you will, prisoners brought out into to the city square. They've been charged with crimes against the nation or just stealing bread. They're chained. They are here, and people have come from far and wide to see something brutal. Yeah, yeah. So something dangerous, something brutal, and someone in royal robes, robes with symbols of arcane power or divine knowledge and blessing, a holy symbol around the neck. And they say these people will be punished because of the things they've done. The cleric, the one with faith, pulls a blade out, rips the shirt off of one of the individuals, and starts cutting this person in the most painful, horrible, kind of torturous manner. And then what do? Lays a hand on them and heals them, and then continues the torture right after that. Someone, oh, I apologize, I didn't pull this up. Someone during the day responded during the day of potions and said, imagine waterboarding somebody with healing potions. They could never die from drowning. Pretty horrible. You could literally light people afire on the stake, let them feel the most horrible pain, heal them again, and do it the very next day. The classic, the classic, the hawk or the griffin, pecking out the liver of, what was it, Atlas or Prometheus or something like that, and having it done day after day. Healing could be pretty damn brutal, especially if someone is impaled or, again, tied to a stake during low tide and waiting for the high tide to come in and drown them and then heal them again. Now, yes, I understand there are different types of healing. There are some that heal hit points, and then there's ones that heal lost limbs, and then there's also healing that cures diseases and such. And if that is divided up in different ways, maybe um, finding a hospice could exist where one person can heal someone of a current disease, but maybe can't heal the side effects of that particular thing. Someone could heal someone of a wound, but they don't. But they also need someone skilled in the ability to set broken bones. Let's say so. A person gifted with healing doesn't necessarily mean they have skill in medicine or first aid, which in and of itself is pretty good, because players could um, have to protect or guide individuals who are gifted with healing to a place where they can be taught medicine, or combine those two forces together. Mike Marin says, um, I think there's talk about was one guy who went around magically healing the sick about 2023 years ago. Didn't really have any impact though. Oh wow, ouch. Yeah, and I heard rumor about this guy that did something like that, but I think he even like fed a bunch of people and or whatever. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Vince is like, yeah, there are these horrible ideas that a healer could just keep you alive for long enough. Yeah, you want to torture someone? But unfortunately, torturous things end because at least we know our lives are limited. And when someone is when all hope is gone, at least they go, well, I'll be dead soon, so whatever. But if someone keeps healing them, it's like, no, you mothers. And scars scars are a physical reminder of sometimes our mistakes. We learn brilliance comes from learning mistakes, right? Like most of our vast knowledge we have in humanity comes from all the other people who didn't make it because of their mistakes. How many poisonous and dangerous animals did we find out existed because of other people that the rest of us go, yeah, we might not want to get close to those poisonous fish and porcupines and sharks and all those kind of things, right? So scars themselves are a reminder of us, and if you heal those away, it is the ability to heal. And we're not, maybe not even physical, healing mental scars as well, removing the memories of dark things. Is that a danger to evolution and progression? I don't know. um Shai says, "Oh yeah, like the cleric has to prove he's a genuine servant of God, so he has to maliciously wound people and then heal them for them to believe it." Wow, reattaching cut off arms, that would be impressive. Wow. Like pulling the sword from the stone. Remember in the classic King Arthur, he had to go around and the stone had to be carried with him and keep pulling the sword out of the stone to prove to people that he was the king. This could be a thing. We don't believe you. And it's like, okay, give me a razor blade. This is so terrible. Like, I saw you heal a minor scar, but can you heal a broken arm? Grab some random person and break their arm. Now heal that. And people are like, no, don't pick me. Oh man. Vince says in Stargate there was an episode where Colonel O'Neill was tortured to almost death and then healed with the sarcophagus again. This would go like this. This would go like this for a long time. Hell's yes. Hell's yes. And on the day of healing, we got a lot of adversaries that kind of like, okay, I brought up trolls, hydras, vampires. We've got ourselves mummies. Um, there's rituals that extend people's lives and such. That could also be part and parcel of the day of healing. Like maybe a loved one who is aging or diseased or something. The cultists are like, listen, we don't actually heal wounds. We can just continue, have the continuation of life. And the person, the great warrior who has, I don't know, suffered great harm or something like that, is like, just get me out of this chair and I will serve the county forever or something. And they go, okay. And they do the ritual and they wrap them up in cloth that's soaked in special alchemical formulae. And then this warrior becomes a mummy. I mean, complete with like the mummy wrappings, but armor and a shield and a sword. And maybe that's why this community has, a half dozen mummy and with a mummy lord that are used to be knights and they're protecting the countryside and the standing on the city walls, and the PCs are like, why are the wait a minute, are there necromancers that are the good guys here? What? That's weird. um Shai says, or the cleric heals some people and they start worshiping him as a god. Yes, absolutely. And then the cleric's god gets mad about that and lays a heavy curse on the cleric, taking away his divine magic. I What are the rules? This is a rhetorical question. In fantasy gaming, a player says, I'm going to make a character, a cleric. It doesn't need to be a cleric, but let's just go with clerics, right? Um, and goes, I have the ability, my player character, the numbers on my sheet allow me to heal. But what's the rule when the player does something that goes against the gods? And in your, I mean, you have to answer this on yourself, guys. If you come to the channel and you're new, answer the question below. Like, does the character, if the god has disfavor with the player character, does the player character keep all their same abilities? Like, is this a one-way street so that the gods are very um the rule that humanity doesn't know is that when the gods pick a person, it's a one-way street. It means once they gift that person with a blessing, they can't take it back. That would be pretty strange, where the gods, their limitation is the minute we, that's why they're picky. So if they find a cleric and give them some of their power, they have access to this divine magic and can't take it back. If they can take it back, is it replaced with something else? Oh no, the cleric can't heal, but they sure can harm. Right? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it may be all kinds of things, right? And we still haven't talked about um, alchemy, apothecaries, just medical sciences, shamans, and tribes people and things like that. Mike Merritt says, I imagine a radical druid's healing of wounds to the forest might be considered harmful by loggers whose camp is destroyed. In some ways, it's just restoring of the status quo. Ooh, the day of healing could be healing harm to everything, the environment. It could be healing harm to the mind. Um, the day of healing could be recuperation of a restoration of family ties. You know, we hey, we had arguments over the past year, but this is the day we come together. And I can imagine many governments don't want that to happen. It's like, stop. What's the very famous thing that happened during World War I, where the soldiers from both sides of the conflict came out of their trenches to have Christmas together? That may be a thing that governments and authority never want to see, because it's like, well, wait a minute, we're supposed to be having a war here, and the people are going, you know what? Today, yeah, we've had a lot of conflict, but today let's just not let's see past that. Um, that would be very awesome too. Vince says, by the way, I personally hate it when PCs torture and make it very clear that this is not as easy as hurt. Hurt leads to get what you want. Yep. People can lie, misremembering things, or simply not know anything, and torturing them won't change this. That's why it's been pretty much proven that torture doesn't get you what you want. Um, Despite the fact that governments continue to do it openly or hidden, here in the States, we've known about rendition, hiring, using proxy countries to do it for us and things like that. But listen, if people that are getting tortured, they're going to come up with all kinds of wild stories and theories and names and numbers and things to stop the pain. And listen, I'm not a badass at all. You do one of the classic car battery things where they do the little electrical cables and zip 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 zip. I'm just like, I'm gonna say and do whatever I need to do to get it not to happen. You ain't even got to touch me, right? I'm gonna be a punk ass, and so yeah, you may not get what you want, but you're gonna get everything. I'm gonna tell you everything. I'm gonna tell you about the time back when I was in the seventh grade. I clipped my toenail and all this kind. And they're gonna be like, "Shut up! Stop telling me this." Yeah, I'll just keep talking and talking and talking. Yeah, I'll never tell you anything. You're right. Mike Mayer says, so even the day of healing could be a sinister day if it's a day that restores and maintains a dangerous conflict. A war during the day of healing would be nightmarish in capacity for suffering. Imagine, wow, imagine a battlefield where no one dies. Everyone just eventually gets the hell back up. And you almost literally have to impale people and bury them in rocks and throw them down in deep crevices they can't get out of, but they can't die. You could break their bones. You could shatter their skulls and leave their brains on the ground, and they can just get back up and scoop it back into their head and get ready and keep into the fight, right? Their arm grasping that sword, they like look around for it and they grab somebody else's arm and then they just stick it onto their shoulder. There's even, oh, I don't remember the name of it. There's a novel, pretty tongue-in-cheek novel about a classic. Don't get me wrong. This isn't. This is very funny. I think there's a story where there's a hero, classic muscle-bound Caucasian hero, sci-fi laser gun and a laser sword, and the the most notable thing about the character is his arm gets severed, and they put a black he's got like two left arms. So they put a black guy's arm on his shoulder, but it's the wrong side arm, so his thumb is facing the wrong way and stuff. And it's a really and the covers of the books are really weird. If somebody could find that for me, Please find the name of this series, book series, about this great, but I think a little bit stupid uh, character. And it's a book series, and the covers are very funny. The artwork is very funny when you see this strange arm or something. Hey, who's to say that Rakshasa didn't get their arms ripped off and turned backwards, or their hands chopped off and put backwards or something? Vince says there could also be a powerful being like a god or a giant dragon that got wounded years ago and still healing. In the day of healing, there are people using healing magic to heal it fully over time. That's a thing as well. Like, and combining that with what uh, uh, Mr. Marin had pointed out, who's to say that the cutting down the forest and um, strip mining away a mountain and poisoning a water table and those kind of things, that becomes rejuvenated, especially if there's like ritualists that are like, please heal this back. But that could also mean that trade routes are no longer pathways any longer. They become fully grown, overgrown, and it requires the druids to have to lead people through these trade routes again to get from one place to another, because you can't get back home because those wagons are not going to fit through the forest. And it's like, oh, we got to cut down the trees all over again. Or um, talking about this full day of healing, where if there's a battle going on and it's the day of healing, and the soldiers might even realize this, like they they wake up the next day and the sun's coming up and they're like, oh shit, you know what today is, guys? And everyone's like, yeah, is the day of healing. And a bunch of the leadership is like, get back to get back to marching. And the soldiers are like, we don't want to do this. And then the battle starts and they're just like slicing and hacking each other. And boom, someone's innards gets ripped open, and they start using their innards to choke somebody out because they're not dead yet or something. Or they slice down 6, 7, 8 soldiers, and when they turn back and look at the bodies that are laying there, they all rise back up again. Now, of course, we've talked about the undead, but we're talking about actually regaining their life. That would be pretty sweet. And Vince, your comment about healing a powerful entity, yeah, maybe an ancient dragon isn't really asleep. Maybe it's just wounded or diseased or afflicted with something that on a day of healing, it's the dragon's caretakers, or there's a need to heal the dragon. So please heal this dragon so it can fly off and go somewhere else. Because simply by having the dragon in our region, it's affecting so many other things, right? That we wouldn't have an active volcano if that damn red dragon was had its wings healed and could fly away, right? So yeah, on the day of healing could be the birth of other things. We Just because someone is or claims to be healed from a disadvantageous position doesn't mean they have perfect health. So a something that is very harmful to people is, for example, a broken bone must be set first before it's healed. Otherwise, if it heals, it will heal in a nasty position. The same could be said for wounds and diseases, and even birth, what some would consider birth defects, that maybe someone who is blinded, it is healed, they don't get their vision back, but they become an oracle. Or someone who is was their spine was smashed by a mace, and they are bedridden, or they're in a wheelchair or something, and they go to be healed, and it's like, oh no, we're not gonna, you're not gonna be, we don't choose how you're healed. So they lay on hands, and, but I'm not in the chair. No, but your mind can leave your body and go anywhere, right? You're a zero level human, but when you leave your body, you become a ghost of yourself, and it's like you have a ghost stat block, right? And like, sweet, I'm like a spectral being. I'm going to go ahead and kick some ass, right? Maybe there's something that happens where the person is healed, but not the way we think they are healed. This could be the reason for goblinoid monstrous races. You were bitten by Hey, human being, you were bitten by a hyena, so now you're a knoll or a were lycanthrope, uh, something like that. I don't know. Rabies affected you, so now you're something else. Vince says, I personally would prefer it that the god would try to talk to the cleric first before taking away their abilities, like sending him another priest or angel or something like that, talk to him to atone. Um, uh, my what I've used as a default when a cleric or a paladin, a herald or something, it goes against warlocks, go against the tenets of their beliefs, or basically do what they're not supposed to do. I offer them a choice, but they're denied one choice but given another choice. So guess what? I know you wanted to pick 3 healing spells today. One of them is gone. You can pick Burning Hands or Darkness or something like that, right? Like I'd start changing one thing or give them an option like you get these 3 other options, but you can't pick that one other option. And it would be something completely out of their purview that they could not have at all. And a paladin who can create darkness is like kind of cool, right? But then on the other hand, it's I look at it like this. It's an opening for maybe another powerful entity to come in and go, I see you're having a problem with your current patron. I'd sure like to help you out, right? So I don't believe in taking away someone's abilities. I like the idea of switching it from one thing to another to like it's it's a form of of temptation. The cleric that starts to get abilities of fire and disease and darkness and corruption or something or whatever, or it could be the opposite, right? A the character who has a patron of evil might start gaining some of these other abilities, right? Mark Desune is like, nice oath you've got there. Would be a shame if someone broke it. Yeah, right. Um, so yes, absolutely. Uh, uh, by the way, if you're coming in late, yeah, we're talking about the day of healing. What if in your setting, your game world, you had a day of healing, and how would you use that for stories and such? So I think this is something that I should start adding into the world. Like we have to come up with some real simple story hooks that we can get our players involved in. Like for example, um, a classic protect the MacGuffin, right? A classic player, I mean, NPCs that are chosen by the gods, chosen by they have the ability to heal, and the players are protecting those individuals um to go to a special location or to go to special individuals who can teach them or guide them on their healing journey. Also, protecting caravans of people who are injured or diseased or wounded or have certain types of defects, protecting them to get to a place. There may also be factions. I can imagine a druidic faction that is against the Day of Healing. That this breaks the Day of Healing breaks what is nature. Hey, if you were supposed to die, maybe you should have. Kind of nasty, but could be a thing. On the Day of Healing, if death is off the table on the Day of Healing, it's possible that there are people who are suffering. The players could have to go around to try to find the people who are suffering to alleviate their suffering because someone fell down into a deep crevice, broke some bones, and got stuck down, 80 feet down into, and it was like, please help me. And it's like, yeah, you probably should have died down there. Um, yeah. Mark Desune says playing a spore druid that is all about the balance between life and death. Yep, absolutely. Um, what's the spore druid? And there's another one. I think it was left in the Unearthed Arcana. Slash and burn druids, where it's the burning of crops or the countryside foliage so that new growth can happen as the burned biological material goes into the ground. That could be a thing as well. And imagine druids that are like I'm trying to think of a way to describe this. Angels of death, kind of like death is supposed to come for you. Uh, the day of healing is the day of the Final Destination movies, right? Where people who have avoided death now are like, it's still coming for me. I don't know what to do. And the player's like, okay, we're going to have to figure out how to fight off death in all of its strange permutations as it comes for us, um, or it comes for innocent individuals, and the players have to fight off how death is coming for the person. Maybe the person was supposed to burn to death in a home, but there's no death on this day. So they put the fire out on the individual and their wounds start to heal. And it's like, oh, okay, great. And then a fire elemental is it spawned somewhere whose only job is to go after that individual to kill them. And the PCs have to fight off of these things, right? That would be pretty interesting. Also, on the day of healing, again, the players may need to stop their greatest adversaries from gaining access. I mean, imagine the hobgoblin horde that now has a half dozen shamanic healers in their midst to help them, so that you know murder killing a swaths of hobgoblins is not going to work as much anymore, because they will come back. And again, the healing doesn't necessarily need to be the spell casting that we're used to for player characters. What if you slice down a hobgoblin? You take your sword, you they've only got 7 hit points. You slice right through them and you cut them in half, and then all of a sudden there's two brand new hobgoblins, because they heal like hydras now. And it's like, oh shoot, how do we stop the horde? As they've been blessed on the day of healing. And it's like, every time we fight them, they double in size. And it's like, stop slicing them in half. We're gonna have to do something else, right? Yeah, it could also be kind of nasty if on the day, like maybe on the day of healing, people become. Remember, we talked about the day of paragons. Maybe someone, some chosen few are not just healed from their affliction, but they become icons of themselves. They become beautiful looking and strong. They grow a head taller than they used to be. They are literally perfection incarnate, right? At least physical perfection, if not mental. And the PCs are like pouting, folding their arms, like, I want to be beautiful and look good and be strong and super flexible and have perfect skin. Right? But then maybe those people become the trolls of the world. Maybe today, oh yeah, they can't be hurt. They they're sliced and instantly they heal and they become these powerful individuals, uh, sycophants, um, gathering around the chosen ones who become nobility. But then after a while, the the sickness that is inside of them becomes external, and that's where trolls come from, because of course they're arrogant, of course they think they're all that, right? That could be a thing. And of course, on the day of healing, it may require that some of the chosen few that have the ability to heal must do so, but they have to learn the proper techniques. They have to learn the words and phrases and rituals of the gods, but maybe some of them are just too arrogant. And so the goodly people heal like we're thinking of: lay on hands, broken bones, burns, cuts, bruises. Okay, it's healed. But the ones who don't learn and like, I don't need any of that, I've been gifted by the gods, whatever, maybe those are the ones that create the monstrous races out there. Like the owl bear comes about because of a errant healing, when an injured owl and a dying bear somehow are within vicinity of each other, and they kind of, their skin literally merges together or something. I'm trying to think of something else that happens that way. The day of healing could be a day of life and bringing life to things that aren't. statues come to life. Uh, where do gargoyles come from? They were just carved things on the top of buildings to scare away evil spirits. But on this day, they do become alive and they do walk the earth. Elemental beings, people carve likenesses unto themselves. A Medusa that has turned people to stone. Maybe they are unstoned, or those stone people start walking around. Could also be a thing. And we're thinking of humanoid life, bacteria, fish, birds, those kind of things. Maybe those become the monstrous, giant sized, intellectual, humanoid, given sentient beings that are spawned in this world. So if the player characters go through the forest and they see a rabbit, maybe that person becomes a rabbit person, or a flock of birds becomes griffins or giant rocks or something like that, ROCs. Uh, yeah, all of that could happen on the day of healing. And again, going back to our nasty, sick, torturous kind of thing, it's possible that um, that this day of healing could be the thing that makes the player characters realize, like, maybe the community that we. What the hell? I think my cat just fell off the ledge. Maybe on this day of healing, do I hear? Maybe on this day of healing, it's possible that um, that the player characters who are aligned with the goodly people realize that this is the day that the harmful things come out. That they are they realize that they're pretty nasty. And Sophie, Soph, come here. Psst, psst, psst. Yeah, kitty, I heard you land, and you literally walk right back up there again. Yeah, she. Wow. She's good. She's a cat. She's good, which is another thing. 9 lives, man. Woof, woof. Also, talking about 9 lives, the day of healing could be a way for okay, so those who are touched and healed might be marked so that they have a limited amount of times before they fall again. So, like 9 lives, like having, like in Level Up Fifth Edition, cre- um, adversaries that have legendary actions have 3 physical aspects about them that when they use a legendary action, they lose that aspect. So could be 3 glowing orbs, it could be 3 skulls, it could be 3 balls of fire that circle around them, or whatever the case may be. It could be 3 spikes on their back that one crumbles and disappears in the dust when they use a legendary action. The same could be on the day of healing, that a normal enemy that could be defeated has with them 7 bands on their arms, like tattoos. And when a PC goes to strike them down, they rise back up again, but one of the bands disappears. And the PC goes, "Oh, damn it. They keep getting back up again." A very classic video game-ish kind of thing, right? They transform, they rise back up again, they reheal, they reset, they are sarcophagi, the sarcophs. I'll call it the legend of the sarcophs happens when a PC strikes down an enemy and then realize, oh, they're just going to reform inside of a sarcophagus like a lich does, a powerful lich, or lick, or I've heard people say it's pronounced that way, but I like lich because lick doesn't sound dangerous enough. Desune says, I'm reminded of the age of creation in Japanese myth, when the gods were creating the first lands and beings. One time, Izanagi gets mad at a fire god, slices him up, but since he's a god of creation, the attack only turns it into several volcanoes instead. That's awesome. And what a great way to healing and rebirth doesn't necessarily mean it's nice for us. It could be a cycle of creation, like you guys were saying about the forests The druids are like, you guys have been cutting down forests for quite a while, but today we're in charge. We're going to reheal the forest. Hey, the volcano that shouldn't be erupting today, it's going to erupt and burn all the land away, because we know that in the cycle of life in 50 years, this forest will even be even greater, and there'll be even greater lands to harvest. But we have to slash and burn it first. Um, uh, all kinds of things could happen where maybe humanity wasn't the original life in your setting. Maybe there was the lizard folk and the scaled folk lived there beforehand. And on the day of healing, what happens? Human life is supplanted by the scaled life who is able to grow and multiply during this time. Uh, Marco says we're going to say the extra lives sounds a bit like a phylactery. Yep, but would the day of healing provide buffs for undead the same way it would for the living? I don't know. Um, Here's a strange thing. Maybe the undead become unundead. The wraiths, liches, vampires, the skeletons, zombies. By the end of the day, do they come back to life again? And how would a knight, let's say there's a an order of knights, how would they be looked at for slicing away and destroying the undead, knowing that the people know that if on the day of healing their loved ones could have been returned back to life, if only people didn't go murder killing the undead to bring them back, right? That's a conundrum, right, unto itself. That at the end of the day, if we can just capture our loved one who's a zombie and chain them in the basement, by the end of the day, they will be returned back to life. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that while it sounds pretty cool to do so, it's like just like what? Um, Pretty interesting to have um do you go around murder killing the undead because they're your experience points? Or I wonder what that looks like if I put that up there. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Or or is it possible that the community is against the player characters who are monster hunters and undead slayers, like the classic cleric turning undead and blasting them into dust, and they're like, you just destroyed my family, and the cleric's like, they're undead. They're gonna try to rip your throat out. Sure, but at the end of the day, they'll be back alive to life, and you just killed them. Cleric's like, whatever, whatever, right? That would be kind of cool. Now, intelligent undead may not want this to happen, so they might try to. I imagine they might try to flee from a population that's like, we're going to hold you down and return you back to the person you used to be. And the vampire lord's like, no, get away from me. The lich is like, I, I sacrificed everything, including my soul, to be this powerful. And you're going to turn me back to a zero level human being? F you. Well, I'm sure they would probably still be a wizard, maybe, but how interesting would that be? The Lich Queen is just like, get away from me! Ah. Hags turn back to regular human beings. Lycanthropes never turn back again, as long as they go through the ritual or they're healed by someone or something. Again, the healing doesn't need to be by a person. It could be a location, an event. Hey, we're all going to crest the hill with the strange monument at the top, and if we just sit here on the grassy knoll and around the monument, but when the sun goes down, the shadow sweeps across the people that are there. As long as you're in the shadow of the monument, your ailments will leave you. But it does go to bring about things like, in our present day, and we reflect things in our present day in our role playing games. What if there are many people don't who don't feel themselves to be handicapped, who don't feel that there's an affliction, who have a completely fulfilling life, even with what we would consider birth defects? What if those individuals don't want the air quotes healing that everybody else wants them to have? A short time ago, um, a little bit before the OGL, there was a bit of like, I don't understand why somebody would have a wheelchair in fantasy gaming, which I'm thinking like, why do you care what somebody else does in their game at their table? But whatever. There was a whole big thing about wheelchairs not existing as an um, adventuring piece of equipment. But what if there's a whole community of adventuring out there and people, powerful individuals, they're like, I don't I don't need to have my vision healed. I don't need to hear. We're perfectly fine. Leave us alone. And there's people who are like, we need to heal you because we're righteous and we need to do this thing. That's some great conflict there. And what is the answer? I don't have one, but I think it would be kind of cool to have to deal with that kind of thing in the game. I think that'd be awesome. Gives you something to think about. Um, tomorrow tomorrow is the day of synths. Let's see if I can. Let's pull this up. I think I have a. I do have a link for this. So yeah, tomorrow's a day of synths, and there we go. Let's pull this up so you guys and share it with you guys. And I've gotten away a little bit from. I've gotten away quite a bit from the day of. So I say no, no worries. I do blind fighting. Yeah. What if? Oh man, how common is that thing with the blind warrior? And the blind warrior's like, no, as they're held down and someone heals their eyes, and they're like, no, get away from me. What is it? The Zatiochi? Zotiachi? The one-armed warrior. It's like, we're gonna heal your arm. We're gonna grow it back. No, no worries. I got blind fighting. That How interesting would that be? Again, the individual who is bedridden or in a wheelchair, who's able to, their mind has been expanded to powerful uh, things and such. Powerful capabilities and whatnot. They can leave their body as an astral being, like a ghost or a wraith or a specter or something, and they're just like, "Oh, we're going to heal you. Hey, uncle, we're going to heal you." The aunt has the capabilities of a powerful hag or something, but she's all like a crone, but temporarily she can look beautiful, and she's like, "Don't touch me. I'm perfectly fine the way I am." Yeah, pretty crazy on this day. Anyway, guys, got here a little bit late in the thing. Tomorrow's going to be the day of synths. I think using this day of, I still think we can talk about science fiction. There are some high tech things I'd like to talk about as well. And I love science fiction and modern gaming, so I think I may slip this back in every once in a while. And of course, on the channel, I between the level up exploration fifth edition stuff, I mean, level up advanced fifth edition stuff, and my Future Friday Eclipse Phase transhumanist, post-humanist stuff, it actually gets quite a bit of attention, which I'm surprised I didn't just turn the channel into this. But whatever. So yeah, gotta give a little bit of shout out to that as well. Now, we're still going to be talking about fantasy, so it's still going to have constructs and Warforged and Gearforged and all that kind of business, but it might be the day of synthetic human beings for tomorrow. So, guys, have a great one. If you've gotten this far, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I read them all. Good stuff, bad stuff, thumbs up, whatever. Get notified. We go live 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It broadcasting on Twitch and YouTube simultaneously. We have a Discord, which I'm never there, but people far more brilliant and socially active than I am are over there. So please continue the conversation there, and hopefully, we'll see more and better things here. And damn. Um, Leave prompts in the comment section, whether you're live chat or in the video. And when I say prompts, one word or very short phrase, preferably one word. For you, something creative, the day of. And you don't have to be predictive. If you have a very strange and word or turn of phrase that could be expanded to so many things. We just need a prompt. We don't need something that you've already done. We need something that we haven't even thought of. So if you have that, leave that down in the section and just be aware we might have already done it yet. We've just going to be 2 weeks and more. I've already started doing plenty of these uh, plenty of these. Like I've got, oh man, what do we have here that I've already done? Day of the Spartan, Day of Snakes, Day of Swords. I have um, Day of Anger, Day of Grain and Grape. I have Day of Contests, Day of Chess, Day of the Rider. So listen, there are all these, plenty of these things. Day of Death. Um, I've got the Day of Futures Past as well. It'd be kind of silly. But anyway, guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. I've got to get out of here. Peace and tranquility.